Welcome to everybody tonight. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for those people in the gallery tonight as well. We really appreciate you being here as well. Thank you for that. So here's the statement we read out before this particular meeting. So due to resurfacing work ongoing, so please, we don't have that, do we? No, it's not done, isn't it? Yeah. There's no fire alarm planned for this evening. Should the fire alarm sound, please leave through the nearest safe exit. The assembly point will be Tower House car park. Members of the public are welcome to make their own recording of this meeting using whatever non-disruptive methods they think are suitable. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being filmed and made available to view in live and archive form via the Council's website. If you are seated in the public gallery, it's possible that the cameras may capture your image. If you wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended that you make a member of the staff aware who can direct you where to sit so that that won't happen. Okay, now we're moving to the agenda part of the meeting. The Cabinet is part of the Council responsible for most day-to-day decisions. It is chaired by the leader, who is elected by the Council, and that's me, Alan Baldock. I am also Cabinet Member for Strategy and Finance. The other Cabinet members are as follows: Councillor Hazelton, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning. Councillor Dawkins, Cabinet Member for the Environment and Sustainability. Councillor Charlotte Cornell, Cabinet Member for Council Services, Culture and Heritage. Councillor Chris Cornell, Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Regeneration. And Councillor Nolan, Community Engagement, Safety and Enforcement. The Cabinet collectively provides strategic leadership to the Council. Okay. Apologies for absence. I don't think we got any, have we? So that's fine. Thanks for that. Declarations of interest by members or officers. Any declared already, Vanessa?
None in advance, Chair.
Okay. Has anybody got any declarations to do? Okay. Obviously, as usual, if anything pops up in the debates or discussions, then just shout out and we're logged out accordingly. Okay. Third point on our agenda tonight is any Cabinet member wishes to make any announcements this evening. Councillor Nolan.
It was good to see Pride Canterbury back in Dane John, and I want to thank all the officers and particularly Cabinet Member Charlotte Cornell for sort of making sure that Dane John was on time and that. But particularly I want to thank the council officers for having sort of the getting things together. And also, what a beautiful display of flowers. Everybody commented on the flowers, both inside and also the wildflowers are outside. And I'd like to particularly say, sort of Derek Theobald, the events manager, for such a good Pride. But I know behind the scenes there were other council workers as well. I particularly did see and thank some street cleaners because they were up and down making sure the streets were clean, and it really showcased Canterbury, which is what we want to do as the council. Thank you.
Have you got Charlotte?
Thank you, Connie. Really appreciate the gratitude of the team, and it was a fantastic event, so well done. In the Dane John Gardens as well, we recently have restored the World War II shell stores that were in the banks and were in some state of disrepair. After consulting with Historic England as part of the Levelling Up programme, we couldn't put seating on the bank without some degree of risk because of those shell stores. We have filled in the shell stores and made the bank safe. But also as part of that, we have done some research on the 59th Newfoundlands who were there during World War II and manned the huge guns that were stationed there, and gave an awful lot to a country, to help defend a country that wasn't theirs for the greater peace of the world. And a new interpretation panel is going up in that space, and there have been thanks to Alison especially, who's done an awful lot of the research, bringing together people's stories together with a sense of place. And the Newfoundland government have also expressed their direct thanks for her work and our work in commemorating that regiment's importance in the Dane John Gardens.
that's particularly exciting, sort of come out of the blue, that too, didn't it? And it's amazing. So really, really good. Newfoundland Day is very soon, by the way, Charlotte, in July. So maybe we can do something there. I don't know. It'd be good. Any other points at all, Chris?
Yeah, just one thing. The tender went out last week to identify artists who might be interested in supporting the new seaside artwork at Eastcliff on Herne Bay. I've had lots of emails, which is all good. I'm passing them all to the art officer so we can come up with a conclusion through the team. But the one thing which has been raised by me is what is happening to the dog pictures. So you can be confident that the dog pictures which are there are going to be renewed, and they are not what we are painting over. We're going to paint aside it. But I thought I'd just clarify that, since I've had more emails than I thought I would on that particular issue.
Just a quick on that, Chris. Have you got a rough timescale?
I think we're hoping to bring it in front of committee and make the decision before the summer is through. And then it will depend effectively when we, depending on what the work is, when is the best pace to install it as the weather gets a little bit dicier towards the autumn. But the money is all out of our accounts by September.
That's excellent. That's really good. Anyone else at all? Okay. Thank you very much. The after we've had those announcements, there's some public participation.
We don't have anyone in Rachel's cancelled.
Okay, beg pardon. Yeah, okay. No, that's all right. That's good. So we were going to have a public speaker. So unfortunately, Rachel's not going to be here tonight. But not to worry. We'll take that on board. So the minutes of the last cabinet meeting now befalls us to approve or not, as the case may be. If we're happy with those published minutes, we can do that by general assent. Okay, thank you very much. And we got an assistant tiebreaker in the audience there as well, so that's fine. Thank you for that. It just couldn't. It's the habit, isn't it? Really, it's fine. So there's no references to committee either from this particular meeting. So we move straight into parts under Part A of our agenda. Yes, we can do that. You're quite right. Let's do that now. So with your permission, and so that we can get Nikki back home a bit earlier, there's one item which is actually the last thing on the agenda tonight, which is item 10, the councillor write-off, the procedural point that we have to do every year, unfortunately. If it's okay with you, I'd like to take that point now, and then we just work our way through the meeting after that. Is okay with everybody? That's fine. Let's do that now then, shall we? So I'll hand straight over to Nikki for an introduction, please. What we've got there.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is the annual write-off report that is for Cabinet to note than what I've authorised to be written off, and it is for council tax, business rates and housing benefits. They're all listed there for the ones that are over £10,000 for your information, and the majority of them are either dissolved, insolvent or got a voluntary arrangement. So this is just the normal process to write them off, because we have gone through all of the avenues that we can do, or our hands are tied in some of these cases because of the situation. So it is just to formally go through this process, and happy to take any questions on it.
You got any questions on any of that? I think we've all had a chance to read it, and we've all had a chance to look at the pink papers as well. Very much within our normal, regrettably, our normal expectation values too, aren't they? So much as it is, we need to approve that, and rest assured, we've done everything plus a little bit more to make sure we've got all the money in that we could do before we've come to this situation. So I think we need to formally vote on this. Just to note, okay, we're happy to note that. And thank you for that. And next year, hopefully it'll be less, but who knows? We never know, do we? Thank you very much indeed for that. So if you're all happy with that, comfortable, thank you very much. Right, this is we're now into item 7, and we're going to work through these items one after the other. This is now the Pip Hazelton show. They're all items to do with housing, and so we just take our time. We'll go through them. We can take questions. We can make sure we understand exactly what we're doing. And we're looking forward to the progression of these items that I go through. I'll leave it to you, Pip, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this item is to, and it's a slight couple of extra words in the papers, to adopt the Regulator for Social Housing Consumer Standards Improvement Strategy and Improvement Plan that has been developed by officers and endorsed by the Regulator for Social Housing. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, that's proposed by you, Pip, and seconded by Councillor Nolan. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So just to introduce the subject, sorry, I'll move the microphone a little further away. Following the Regulator for Social Housing's judgment in October 25, there's a need to have both a strategy and action plan to improve service delivery, and tonight I'm seeking approval from you in Cabinet to accept the strategy. Many officers have worked really hard to develop this, and I thank them wholeheartedly. It's required a root cause analysis of the various issues, followed by the development of a detailed strategy to address and improve our social housing offer. Alongside this, an action plan with detailed milestones has also been developed, which is an iterative document that will change and adapt as issues are resolved, milestones met, new challenges encountered, etc. There have been monthly meetings with the regulator that have helped shape this final document, and these will be ongoing. The strategy has already been presented to the Resident Engagement Panel on the 14th of April, and also to the Cabinet Advisory Committee for Housing on the 23rd of April. Both agreed with the principles of the strategy and the accompanying action plan and have endorsed it. So basically, they have done the heavy lifting and scrutiny, so you don't have to. Seriously, I really am indebted to the cross-party committee, along with 2 tenant members, as well as, of course, Residents' Engagement Panel, for their interest, questions, scrutiny and support. Personally, I'm really proud of the way the Council's responded to the considerable challenges we face in making real and sustained improvements to our social housing. I am feeling confident and optimistic, but certainly not complacent, as we're seeing real improvements in a number of the metrics that have been identified to move us forward on this journey. Complaint handling, stock condition surveys, safety compliance and tenant data collection are all examples where improvements have already been made. Further improvement must and will be made and sustained. The Regulator for Social Housing will decide when they think we're ready to be re-inspected, but until then, meetings with them will continue, continuous management oversight of all service areas, as well as the scrutiny by REP and the Cabinet Advisory Committee for Housing. And I scrutinise the lot and feedback to you in Cabinet. I hope you'll agree with me that the openness of staff at all levels to accept the need to change and genuinely want to deliver a better service all round for our tenants lies at the heart of this strategy. We have been and will continue to be transparent about where services were poor and relentless on our improvement journey. So please ask questions of officers or me, and then I'll ask you to endorse the strategy. Thank you.
I will just add that I'm kind of much more comfortable than I was this time a year ago. And it's a true credit, I think, to the progress we've made. And as you say, there's no need for any complacency, but on the other hand, one heck of a journey we've been on, and the journey to the better for our residents and tenants. Really proud of that. Really proud of the team that pulled that together. After I think must have felt like quite a kick in, not through just through circumstances really. So proud of that, and a good time to reflect back on that. The new document. Has anyone got any questions at all? I've got Chris then, please. Thank you.
Yeah, just kind of echoing Pip and Alan's comments. It's a kind of no hold bars, kind of honest reflection about where we are, which I think is admirable. And it's good that we've got a process in place to keep a review of that, and importantly, also use tenants as kind of at the heart of that. My question effectively relates to the process of audits in how we measure them. So in the overall, there is a general comment that we will have assurance that we reach said standard. And obviously Pip's kind of highlighted that the moment at which it is decided that you get that review is something that you don't. But if you're a governor in a school, you know an Ofsted review is coming, and come year 3 or 4, you're thinking about how am I preparing for that, and what external challenge am I having that I'm meeting that kind of standard. So we've got some comments here about how we're doing internal audits and how we're running tenants audits. Are both of those operating under the same standard as we will have the external scrutiny, or do they have their own audit process? Where do the results of those audits then come back into? And do we have, as we go on, in a structured approach by which we might get some peer challenge for a proper external audit to find out where we're at? Or is there a way in which we can almost self-assess like you would do in preparation for an Ofsted inspection, for example, so you can show that you're at that standard before, and because that standard may also change during the period of time?
So if that's okay, I'll do a quick short, answer, and then I'm sure Marie, on behalf of the officers, can talk in more detail. But basically, there are these monthly meetings with the regulator. So this strategy has already been through quite a lot of through the mill in order to identify what the appropriate milestones are and how we'll know when we're getting there and when it's fully embedded. And some of the standards are set, so it's not a matter of internal view whether those have been met or not. They're objective external kind of measures, and Marie can talk more about that. But I think there is a reality that we will continue to keep auditing, scrutinizing, assuring ourselves in a whole, well, you can see from the report there are many areas, and we will be continuing to do that. And even after the regulator has re-inspected, I don't expect everybody to sit back and relax, because these are things that we need to, and we as a social landlord, we absolutely must and we want to provide. So there won't ever be a sort of dismantling of it, and there won't be it's year 4, we haven't been visited by Ofsted, so let's ramp ourselves up for the inspection that's coming, because we are, if you like, under continuous improvement inspection. But Marie will be able to talk in much more detail about some of the metrics, perhaps.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelton. Thank you, Chair. The regulation process is like an audit. So it is all about assurance, not reassurance. It's all about providing evidence, data, and the regulator scrutinising, checking and challenging that data, And that's what happens as part of those meetings. So the East Kent Audit Partnership will have a programme. We put forward areas internally for them to audit, as we've done previously, around voids and compliance issues. So we will continue that. I don't think there is any value in any additional external audit because of the rigorous process that the regulator follows. It is an iterative process. So as we go through regulation, as we evidence and they have assurance we meet the standards, then it will be at that point that we reach a review period and potential sort of re-looking at this for a grading assessment. What I would say is that the action plan that you see before you covers the points that the regulator actually picked up on and made. We had a number of other actions that we've identified, which PIP has been part of that process. The regulator said, you know, we're quite happy with your performance in that area. We don't want it in the plan. You want to continue service improvement in that area, then, you know, that's fine. We're not going to monitor that. So there are lots of things that we want to change and need to change, and none of those other items have been lost because it's a holistic approach. We have the monthly meetings with PIP. We also have monthly housing management meetings where we're going through this action plan and we are checking challenging progress. And some of this performance will be coming to your next cabinet meeting in July around end of year performance. So it's an ongoing process. If and when we get upgraded and reassessed, there will still be that continuation process of working to the standards, because these are new for the industry. But actually, it's a governing framework that we're going to continue to monitor and progress with.
Yeah, do come back, Chris.
I mean, I think the key thing I pick out of there is that we use the East Kent audit framework to do a process of internal. So whilst we might not have an external challenge, we'll have a clear, transparent challenge through elected officials when that information comes back, and we'll utilise their experience. Just one more thing, and I'm assuming it's probably a typo, but I need to clarify. Beginning of page 14 or 39, a programs for tenancy audits is in place and at least 10% are being completed each year. Do we mean 10% of audits are completed or 10% of tenancies are audited?
10% of tenancies.
10% of tenancies. Okay, fine. I don't want us to set this target and only achieve 10% of it, but it's good to know that I know where the commas should be. Thank you.
That's actually quite a lot, isn't it? Yeah, so that's quite a big sample, isn't it? 10%. That's pretty good. Good to be at this place, isn't it? Really. Is there any other points at all? Okay, Mel.
Thank you, Pip. Marie, yep. So I just had a quick question, really. I was just looking through a report, and great that we're if you want to improve something, you have to say the problem in the eye, sort of thing, and accept it. And this is what it's all about. And it is a very, very honest report, so I appreciate that. It's how it plays out. Just with my portfolio hat on, obviously there was a social homes warm grant, and I wasn't sure why it's not in this document as one of the actions, because obviously that's doing quite significant work in terms of improving the stock and everything. So I'm wondering why you haven't put it in the report. And just one of the actions in there, you're addressing ASB, which is something that you're only just sort of starting on, and isn't it? It said that you just started, or one of them hasn't. You're sort of getting all the surveys together and everything. Like a really huge problem. I just fancied a little bit more detail about what you're sort of planning to do to sort of address that, because I think everybody's probably got something in their inbox about it, and it just sort of constantly goes back and forth, and quite often these issues never seem to be resolved. And so I'm just interested to hear what a bit more detail of that, please.
Yeah, please do, Marie. Carry on. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. With the warm homes, because this action plan is targeted to meet the regulators' needs in terms of what they are scrutinising and what they want to concentrate on. So they use this every single meeting. They ask for data on each of the sections, and then that check and challenge process takes place. So the warm homes is it's contributing to improved condition of our homes. It's contributing to the decent home standard, but it's not something that the regulator is monitoring in terms of a compliance position. However, there will be an update on warm homes when the end of year housing performance comes to Cabinet on the 2nd of July. So there'll be an update within that. In terms of the antisocial behaviour, I think from a community safety aspect and what we are doing within communities, the regulator felt we were very strong in that area in terms of partnership working, tackling community issues together with partners and addressing those issues. The action in this document refers to bringing in a survey around the casework that we do. So actually sort of getting feedback from tenants on how cases have been handled, whether they have been kept up to date, how they feel the communication went, and what the outcomes were and how they feel about those outcomes. So it's very much focused on a satisfaction survey with how we've dealt with it. We also look at the tenant satisfaction measures that we do annually, and one of those measures is around antisocial behaviour. Do you feel that the council's tackling it? So we will be doing some focus groups as well with some tenants to get feedback in addition to the ASB surveys. And again, we will include an update on that within the end of year performance in terms of the number of cases, the types of incidents, some of the outcomes that have been achieved. We also look at tenant complaint data, so some of that may relate to handling of antisocial behaviour in cases. And where there is learning or trends around that, we use that to change the way that we deliver service. So I think one of the things that we've picked up is around communication and keeping people updated, even when there is no progress or nothing to update. It's really important to tell people that and to tell tenants that, so that they're kept informed and they're kept engaged in the process, because there's nothing worse than having sort of like several weeks going by not hearing anything of what's happening. So we will be putting a focus of that in the end of year report as well, which will come to Cabinet at the same time.
Right, thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. On the plan, and you just mentioned the ASB survey, on the casework survey, and I do notice that that's sort of flagged as late. It's one of them that is helpful, and it's helpful to have these flagged as late. But sometimes where they are running late, there's not necessarily an explanation of why for the 3 or 4 items. I appreciate that. Perhaps that's a conversation that's been had with the portfolio holder, and Pip will know. But where we're asking other teams, such as the communications team, to deliver something, it's perhaps helpful to know, for wider Cabinet, to know if these are issues of sort of just time or loading on those particular departments, because they feed into other decisions we make across the shop. So I just wanted to, where they are flagged as late, it might be helpful, and it could be a note to Cabinet later. I don't, or now, I don't mind, but why?
It's noted, yeah, fine. Was there anybody else? Okay, Chris.
So I just trying to work out what. So we sign off the strategy today. Obviously, it will have its regular kind of review through the Cabinet Advisory Committee. I'm assuming it's not necessarily going to come back to us as a specific piece of work. It will just get fed into the annual housing strategy, which will allow us, in theory, to see the round. So whilst we could be, performing well on the things which a regulator does at the behest of other things, we can see it generally. So it will feed into the annual strategy, and then we can make the resource, identify the resource gaps out of that. Okay.
Yeah, Pip.
Thank you. Yes, so exactly that, Chris. And the Cabinet Housing, the Cabinet Advisory Committee for Housing, it doesn't trip off the tongue, but it is a Cabinet committee. And so, the papers are published that they at every meeting of that committee on our behalf, as commissioned by us as Cabinet, the plan is looked at, updated, scrutinised, challenged, commented on, and it also has spotlight items. So there might be a spotlight, for example, on complaint handling and how timescales are improving, and a deep dive spotlight on a particular area. So, while I was kind of lightheartedly saying, REP and the Cabinet Housing Committee are doing the heavy lifting, so you don't have to. Please don't feel that you don't have to, you can always read the papers, and I'm sure you look at the minutes as well, because that will continue to, to give you a kind of much more detailed and kind of granular look at each area. I didn't quite understand Charlotte, your question about some things are late. Were you referring, if you were referring to some of the items that are showing as red, some of those are not started yet, but they sorry? Some of them do say that. Okay. Apologies. I'll come back to you on those. Thank you.
Any other points at all? Because I think that's really helpful, and I think we will hopefully endorse this, and then obviously that becomes the framework, I suppose, doesn't it, for this improvement plan that goes forward for the next few years. We can have some confidence of the overview for that cabinet committee as well, which I think was a really important move, that as well. So, okay, vote on this one, isn't it? Yeah, so a vote on this will be to adopt it. Thank you very much.
And that's carried unanimously, Chair.
Thank you for that. That's appreciated. Okay. Okay, so sticking on our housing theme, but in a slightly different way now, Pip. If you could take item A, that's homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. That's the permission to consult on this particular one, and obviously it's a little bit different this time round than what we've done it in previous times. So a little bit of a split apart. So we'll take it from there. Thank you, Pip.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, so this is, as Alan has said, it's seeking permission to consult on the draft homelessness and rough sleeping strategy 2026 to 2030. The paper explains reasons for the request and why the council needs to have one in place. And so I'm asking that Cabinet resolve that the consultation is carried out on the draft homelessness and rough sleeping strategy 2026-2030 for a 12-week period from the 10th of June 2026 to the 2nd of September 2026. Can I have a seconder, please?
Thank you, Connie, for that.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm really sorry. Move this. Move the laptop. Is that better? Thank you. Apologies for sound in that case. So I've talked about this at numerous meetings, either of Cabinet, full council, etc. But finding yourself without a safe and secure place to call home is a tragedy for individuals and families who find themselves close to or being homeless. It undermines all other aspects of life, from work to education, family and community ties, to health and well-being. But it also poses significant financial and logistical challenges to us as a housing authority, as well as being a matter of shame for a country as wealthy as ours, and where the divide between haves and have-nots is too wide and ever widening. The government's national plan to end homelessness seeks to address this and requires us to have developed an action plan by this autumn. And this presents us with an opportunity to tie what we are doing locally with the government's approach. So you will know that we have separated out the previous housing strategy, which was linked with, it was a very long title, Housing Strategy and Homelessness and Rough Sleeping. And we have now separated out the two. It's a requirement that we have this strategy. It's only advice, I think, that we have the overarching housing strategy, which really links to the local plan. So we've separated that out. The other one is going through the governance process currently. So this is the focus on homelessness and rough sleeping. So there's a lot of great stuff throughout the document, and I'm really pleased to present it, and I thank the officers for their work in bringing it in front of you tonight. So I'll just pick out a couple of things. So we're proposing to increase our prevention of homelessness through early intervention, reduce and prevent rough sleeping, improve how we communicate and provide advice, raise the standards of temporary accommodation and make best use of housing stock. So prevention is key here, working with individuals and families earlier and taking practical and financial steps where appropriate to maintain existing housing. Also by maximising awareness of and uptake of previously unclaimed benefits. Collaboration is key to this too, and we are creating a strategic forum for partnership working. For example, the duty to refer by other agencies will be strengthened so that earlier notification of possible homelessness will result in fewer emergency placements. The well-understood metaphor of stopping people falling in upstream rather than having to fish them out further down really does apply here. We'll also continue to improve the quality of temporary accommodation, recognising that pressures on the housing market locally mean individuals and families are having to stay longer in temporary accommodation than we would want. We also want to limit the use of bed and breakfast accommodation and reduce reliance on the private rented sector by purchasing more of our own units. And we also want to limit out of area placements. So I've spoken to officers, and we're making really good progress in lots of areas. So, for example, not having any families in bed and breakfast, which is a government target and one that not all local authorities are able to meet. We have a particular, as we know, the housing market is really tight. So I'm very pleased that we've been able to prevent the use of bed and breakfast accommodation in almost all cases with families. And getting people out of not having to place people in temporary accommodation out of area because it's so disruptive to their lives. Or despite the fact that we have, increased numbers of referrals because of the state of housing nationally, we are keeping as many families in district as we can, which obviously preserves their relationships, their education, their contacts, their communities support and work, employment, all sorts of things. So this strategy is pulling all of those things. So we're doing all these things, but the strategy will build on this work that we're already doing. So moving on to the consultation aspect, because this is for permission to go out to consult. We want to consult as widely as possible with the public, partner and stakeholder agencies, as well as those with lived experience. And I would just like here to mention one of our other councillors had originally hoped to be able to speak at this meeting tonight, but hasn't been able to make it. And she emailed me earlier, and it's Councillor Carnac. And she wanted to say how pleased she was to see this document coming forward, and also the emphasis that it puts on children and protection, safeguarding with children in mind. And she has also asked a question, and I will ask the officer to talk a little bit more about which groups we intend to consult with, because Councillor Carnac was raising, I think quite rightly, that schools do an awful lot of good work in identifying housing pressures and being in a position to flag up early and to provide support, particularly with a focus on children. And so I want us in this consultation to not just pop it on our website, which I know we wouldn't do in any case, but to think, as widely as possible about those with lived experience, or that have teetered on the edge of, as well as having found themselves rough sleeping or in TA. So it's an important document, it goes to the heart of our administration values and our corporate plan. I won't start quoting our sustainable development goals, but it really does. We seek to improve individual and community well-being, enhancing resilience, targeting our resources as effectively as possible. So by starting the draft strategy on its governance journey tonight, we can ensure our approach to homelessness and rough sleeping is well placed to weather any potential disruption or neglect as we go through local government reorganisation over the next 4 years. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions, but I'm sure Marie is, better placed probably than me if the questions are too technical. And I hope that then you'll endorse it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pip. Marie, should we come back on, I think?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hazelton. In terms of who we're consulting with, I think one of the biggest links is between health and housing, and having a warm, safe, decent home that's stable obviously enhances any health inequalities that are there. And I think it's important to consult with partners, key partners, like schools, like health organisations, like social services, and the voluntary and community sector as well. In terms of lived experience, we will obviously try and seek the voice of the child and young person as part of this. And it is those learnings as well. It's listening to people's real life experiences, what they've gone through, the challenges they've faced, and some of the barriers that they've faced as well, so that we can hopefully try and design out some of those barriers as part of service development once this strategy has been developed. But the priority has got to be on how we can best support people and prevent homelessness as part of that process.
Yeah, go ahead, Pip.
Yes, thank you. So, just, I think I'm right in saying that that in Canterbury we have the highest number of care leavers in the county, and from my previous, in my previous existence, and I'm sure it isn't, no doubt, exactly the same as it ever used to be, that despite best endeavours, young people leaving the care system are often left. We often have very short notice of their changed housing needs as they move through typically foster care, supported accommodation, and then into independence. And getting a real deep understanding of those those care leavers. You know, deep personal friend of mine was the originator of the Who Cares network, you know, decades ago. And when children were literally given the keys to a flat, £100 deposit and a toaster, and they'd lived in residential care for, you know, for most of their childhood, and they thought that you know, cheese came in, you know, 5 kilo blocks in a great big community fridge, you know, in the catering department of their children's home. And things have moved on from there, but there is still a real need to speak to those young people so that they don't become the casualties of, you know, with their housing. And only today, you know, we're hearing about national government talking about introducing a new law about cuckooing. For example, where, I mean, there are a range of vulnerable groups who would be vulnerable to cuckooing, but I know that children leaving care, you know, are often very vulnerable. And so, yes, so the consultation, I want to make sure that we consult as widely as possible so that we can, you know, truly learn from what those lived experiences are. Thank you.
Yeah, go on, Christian.
15 years working in homelessness services, including writing homelessness strategies. So I can't not make a comment on some of this. I think the interesting thing when looking at homelessness strategies is effectively to say that not every local authority funds particular types of work. And actually, there are some conscious things which we are choosing to fund, which I actually think, to be honest, we could be a bit clearer and better about what we do. There's some really good stuff in here, for stuff on trauma-informed practice for children first, the domestic violence health assessment, the household-specific personal housing plans, the duty to refer, the one-stop shop model. But generally, my kind of comment would be that the narrative of bidding could do with a bit more stuff around benchmarking, because I think the evidence is people, obviously, one person on a street is too many. But the evidence that we have in Canterbury is that homelessness, and particularly rough sleeping elsewhere, is increasing quite significantly. And in ours, it's still a problem, but it's not spiraling at the same type of rate. And I think that part of that is some of the good partnership work that we've got. So I think some more clarity in the introduction about benchmarking would be great. Secondly, I think we could better sell what we think our model is. So we refer at various different types here to the rapid rehousing model, which is obviously a kind of an emerging strategy idea over the last 10 years. It ties housing first together with a number of things, but it has also been interpreted in different areas quite substantively differently. So in terms of kind of safe to stay hubs, for example, is a characteristic in some local authorities. It's not in others. So if we're going to use that terminology, which I think is good, you know, it's definitely pushing where the Scottish government and the Welsh government have been for a couple of years. We need to basically be saying, what do we think a rapid rehousing model looks like in Canterbury? And I think really strongly the way that Pip kind of talks about bringing together our stuff on housing stock alongside homelessness strategy is actually one of our strengths here, because we're acknowledging that when the market is failing, when we can't find the temporary accommodation out there with private sector, where we're being forced to put people in wrong type of accommodation, we're going, how can we use our own stock to solve that problem rather than just plough money into private landlords who essentially are fleecing councils? So, you know, we do have a solution to some of that, but it's not what all local authorities do. And it's not actually how all homelessness strategies are set out. But the kind of key thing for me is I think that some of the real strengths in here, the duty to refer, the hospital pathways worker, etc., are all about partnership working and accountability in the partnership working. Like, you can set a protocol, that doesn't take any time. It's having the partnership of people who will check that protocol is working. So it's good to hear that we're doing some workshops with people, but I guess my kind of question is, how are we then tying that into a partnership framework with people so that they can be not only challenging us on how we're delivering it, but, to be honest, so that when we set these things up, we can also check that they're working? Because, I mean, some of this stuff, particularly engagement with the family-focused prevention stuff, relies very heavily on having the right people in a room and actually getting the right service delivered rather than just the right promises to deliver the right service. So I guess my question is, how does it fit into a longer-term partnership framework to deliver it?
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. We've actually got the first of the workshops with the strategic partnership on Friday, and that will develop that monitoring aspect. I think, you know, the more that you can achieve is demonstrated by the strength of your partnership. We've got lots of different strong partnerships looking at different themes across the district. The Community Safety Partnership is one of those, and the work with rough sleepers that we do through the Community Safety Partnership as well, it is a good demonstration of how different organisations are being held to account and deliver. MHCLG have worked very closely with us over recent months. We've done several workshops with them to make sure that we are tied into the government strategy and pillars to tackle homelessness nationally. But the key will be that forum and developing that partnership, having that accountability, and the plan being monitored alongside and through partners. And also that collective approach, because I think the duty to refer, it's a really fantastic mechanism to get to people early. But if many groups, organisations don't know about it, then we're missing opportunities. So part of this is about awareness raising, part is about communication, but the major bit is that collective responsibility to try and support people.
Yes, thanks. I think it was Pip and then Connie.
Thank you. Yeah, just to say that when MHCLG were visiting last year, they were very complimentary about the on the ground teamwork, and their challenge to us as a council was about making sure that we also had a more strategic board, if you like, of people where the decision makers could commit and take back, you know, bring stuff in from their agencies, so like the DWP and, you know, people like that, health and so on. So so that's where we have been, you know, focusing, you know, new efforts, because the teamwork on the ground, the individual liaison, the casework, the knowledge of who's sleeping where rough tonight, or you know, where there are issues in temporary accommodation, and that on a case by case basis, I think has been acknowledged as being a strength in the council. But our challenge was to, you know, get a bit more on top and at a strategic level, and that's what we've set about, and this is all part of that.
I absolutely welcome this, and I think I'm not surprised at all that there's cross-party support on this, because it's something that is desperately needed. I like the idea of the early intervention, access and information, tackling rough sleeping, and also it's really important that standards of temporary accommodation is important. My question really is, how bold can we be? Because I can imagine that expectations will rise, because this and quite rightly, this will be talked about, and how are we going to manage the expectations of the general public? I hear what you say, Councillor Hazelton, about the fact that we have the largest number of care leavers in our district. I actually did think it was Thanet, so I'm interested in that. I'll have a little dig into that afterwards. But what is interesting is we want to do the right thing. We're going to have support to do the right thing. But how realistic is it? How bold can we be? And how are we going to manage those expectations? I know Councillor Cornell was talking about, you know, benchmarking, and I think that's important. But we haven't got a magic wand. So managing expectations is my question. How are we going to do that?
Do you want to take that, Marie? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Yeah, I mean, a lot of work has already been underway in terms of keeping people within the district. You know, Cabinet agreed last year about purchasing more temporary accommodation within the district, and that is a great ambition to make sure that people who are at a vulnerable point in their lives are able to stay with support networks as best we can. I think that obviously we'll go out to the consultation, we'll look at the feedback, and we'll look at the opportunities that this brings. It may be that the council doesn't have the answers to all of this, but it may be that other partners have got other solutions and things to contribute. And I think the more that you work together, the more you collaborate, then the greater the impact that you can make. But communication will be key in terms of how we feed back on this to the public and to our customers and to our partners. So I think a strong communication plan that runs alongside any future strategy will be important, as will KPIs and measures and accountability on delivering it.
Come back quickly and then Charlotte, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm very mindful in my ward, you know, Redbridge basically solved their problem by putting them into our district. And of course, they then quite rightly regard us as their council, but they're actually Redbridge tenants. And that is a model I would not like to see.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlotte.
Thank you. I think it's really impressive to the team and to you, Pip, and I'm really looking for, it's a good long consultation period. I think we'll get some really useful responses, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing the next iteration. I just on the comms section there, we talk about the improvements to our website and making sure that people are directed easily. And having just taken over digital, I'm very interested to see the comments and reflections there. But we must not forget that we also have literal shop frontage. And often, certainly the cases where I've had some degree of intervention where people have presented in person at Rose Lane because that's where they've looked and that's where we are and that's where we go. How we present information in our literal shop front and on our street scene. So we having just used our Connected Canterbury monies to have install new signage, which is replaceable and adjustable and magnetic. We can advise both people experiencing homelessness and others who see others experiencing homelessness where to report and how to help, perhaps using some of our street furniture to do that. Because so many evenings we must all have experienced people saying, oh, I've seen someone and I don't know what to do. And I just think we've got some of the furniture now and literal shop fronts to do a better job in that area of comms, and it isn't on the bullet points, so just for consideration.
That's good. Thanks for that. Yeah, any other points still? No, it's just so I think we can be confident that this is a great starting point. The consultation will make it stronger, as it should do and would do. I think these last two things on the agenda, we shouldn't worry that we're going into LGR, because these are the strong documents that we need to take into local government reorganisation, not worry about what other people are doing. They're strong documents that I'm sure other people will lean into rather than the other way around, because we are doing ours now and other councils have actually done theirs time ago. Maybe they're a little bit dated now. So we've got a strong point here, and I feel, will be strong documents to take forward as being a policy into the larger authority quite potentially as well. So let's not worry about that, because often people say, what's the point? But the point is a strong point, actually, very strong point. Did you want to say something, Pip? Sorry, it was Mel, was it? Yeah, come
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to make a couple of points, but one was just like about the partnership providers, and I know that one of them is having trouble. I'm not naming any names, but trouble with sustaining their staff because of traffic issues and stuff like that. So I will be interested to hear what their feedback is. And obviously, all our providers need an income to provide the service so that we can have the partnership. So I guess that's kind of like the crux of the whole strategy, is like making sure that everybody's got the money to be able to deliver it. And also the sort of homelessness definition, it doesn't necessarily mean you haven't got a home. You could be a couch surfer or whatever. So I didn't see a definition in the document, exact one, but I don't know if that's something that could be addressed. And I noticed from the government homeless strategy that when they were running that at ministerial level, they had a lived experience forum. And I know you talked about, making sure that we can have that lived experience do the strategy so that we get that real life data, if you like. So I don't know if that's something that we could sort of run, a lived experience forum. I don't know how you would do it, and just a typo I noticed as well. But on page 100, it says our strategy focuses on the following 5 strategic priorities, and there's only 4. So I don't know, before you send that out, maybe you just want to change it. But it's an only minor thing in comparison to the actual content of this strategy. It's very small. But yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. Is there any other points at all? No, I think we need to vote on this, don't we? So when we vote, if you vote for this is a vote to recommend for consultation.
And that's carried unanimously, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay. Good. Right. So, last but by no means least, the last item that we're going to be dealing with tonight is planning enforcement plan adoption. Do you want to do an introduction now, or do you want to ask Simon to do that, or have you got something? Yeah, good to go? Good to go. Thank you. Then Pip, go for it.
Thank you. So you'll be pleased to know that I'm not available for the next cabinet meeting. So kindly, this item has been brought forward so that I can present it, I think, at this one. So we need to, I want to propose the resolution that the draft planning enforcement plan 2026 be adopted. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, that's Chris Cornell. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I'm pleased. With various shifts around, I just wanted to say that this is with my new portfolio responsibilities for planning, and thanks to the planning officer here, Simon Thomas, who has been hand-holding me to a certain extent, and I'm still learning, still got much to learn, but thank you. So I'm pleased to present the draft planning enforcement plan for comment and adoption. So it sets out a clear, robust framework for how alleged breaches of planning control will be investigated, prioritised, and where necessarily addressed through proportionate enforcement action. It's intended to strengthen consistency and transparency in the Council's approach, while also helping to protect the district's environment, heritage, and residential amenity. So this updated version provides clarity as to what the public can expect. So I think the plan makes clear that the Council has discretion to investigate and determine if breaches have taken place, as well as to determine what enforcement action, if any, will be taken. It also commits the Council to notifying the person making the report of the outcome. So the report refers to a large number of reports received, and I thought you might be interested to know some of the figures in relation to this. So the average number of reports of alleged breaches of planning law we receive each week is, any guesses? 18. So 18 reports each week. They're then triaged to check whether planning permission is required or whether it's a matter that should be referred to another department or agency. So of those reports, a quarter, 25%, require further investigation after having been through that triage process. And then I understand that where cases require an initial site visit as part of the triage process, our officers visit the site within a week of the report coming in. Cabinet, you will have also received a letter in recent days from 2 ward councillors from Surrey, Councillors Harry Mackenzie and Councillor Keji Moses. They welcome this planning enforcement plan and commend its transparency, with which I agree and for which I thank them. They also raised the concern felt within their communities when major planning breaches are reported, investigated and determined. And we know that possible planning breaches are of real concern to our residents, and this plan clarifies how reports will be dealt with. In addition, officers have already agreed to prepare some supplementary guidance, a flow chart, and answers to some frequently asked questions. So I've asked for an all-councillor briefing, as well as an offer to do the same with parish councils. And these will come on stream in the next few months, because I think there is commonly a misunderstanding amongst the public about complaints or reports of planning breaches, and so this adopting this planning enforcement plan will be formally recognise the document, but I also want to make sure that councillors, parish councils and the public are as informed as possible, so that when they report a possible planning breach, they have a clearer understanding of what they can expect. So yes, so I just want to say that because I've only recently taken over the planning portfolio, Head of Planning and I have already got a schedule of regular diary dates to monitor performance that will feed into the KPIs of our corporate plan and enable any fluctuations in performance to, be scrutinised for resource planning, training purposes, etc. And I say that because I know as a ward councillor, and I'm sure you are all aware as ward councillors, that concerns about planning breaches is, quite a regular feature of questions that we get asked, and so I want to assure Cabinet that I've got my eyes on it, and will be asking, lots of questions as I learn over the coming months. So happy to answer any questions, but truthfully, probably more technical questions will need to be answered ably by Head of Planning. Thank you.
That's great, Pip. Thank you for that, and absolutely endorse the fact that it's dear to the heart of almost every single councillor, and it's a tough thing to kind of work our way through with our residents sometimes, isn't it? It was for Charlotte, I noticed, and you, Connie, as well, was it? Mel, sorry. So Charlotte first, then Mel. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you both. I really welcome this in providing clear direction, because you're right, we all get quite a lot of traffic on this issue as ward councillors, and having the heritage portfolio, I sometimes get some traffic on particular listed buildings. I do feel it would be helpful if there was some degree of clarity on councillor involvement in this policy, either upon the conclusion your ward councillors would be copied, or ward councillors would be notified of the conclusion of the matter. I think that would be incredibly helpful to ward councillors' workload and triaging of those complaints. Possibly, I do understand why reportees are not. We're not encouraging anonymous submissions, but it is an option to ask your ward councillor to submit something, or to involve your ward councillor if you didn't wish to make the submission personally. So again, there's two potential areas there just for councillor oversight. It also, I don't think this should go in the policy, but just wearing the heritage hat on those listed building issues, it would be really helpful for me that I was included in conclusion notices given out, or remedy notices, because there have been quite a few in the pipeline, and I really don't know where they are at the moment. And of course, I know I can ask you any time and you will update me. I do know that. But having those notices as part of protocol will be really helpful.
It's a really good point, actually, that. I think I've been on both sides of that. It'd be quite handy to do that. And also, I think actually, on the positive side of it, it helps us to understand more. You know, because we're constantly learning, aren't we? Especially with heritage stuff, actually, isn't it? It's every time you get feedback on something, you learn a little more, don't you? And that's really helpful to do that. Mel.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and thanks for your introduction, and yeah, and for saying that you wanted this to be as outward facing as possible, because I was going to bring that up. So you got there first. I think the process and councillors know, the general public and the councillors know what to do is really, really important, because it's like it can be a minefield, and there's that useful guide at the bottom of the document about where to go. Is that going to be available to everybody, sort of thing? And one sort of question is something that comes up quite a lot, is often though, you know, because in the guide it's going refer to KCC, but there's sometimes you do get those odd cases where it is a sort of a KCC and a CCC issue, and then you find that you are being like ping ponged around. So will there be a process protocol flowchart for that sort of anomaly that comes up?
Can I just very quickly, before
please.
Simon gets a chance to answer, I think these are exactly the sorts of frequently asked questions that may come up. And so it's really useful, because when Simon and the team prepare, you know, an all councillor briefing and maybe a flow chart and the frequently asked questions, that, you know, that will help structure. And I'll probably come back to you, and the team will come back to you for, you know, suggestions prior to the presentation, and then we can take further from that. Thank you.
I'll just take Chris, and then if you can come back in and take a few points there. Thanks.
Yeah, just picking up on Mel's point, Appendix 1 definitely needs to get out into the public. It's really quite useful to identify what are civic issues, what are party wall issues, boundary issues. The problem is when all of these residents feel a sense of injustice, and I often agree with them. Everybody else has bothered applying for planning permission. Why haven't some of these people? However, there's often a range of things, some of which you can use planning enforcement for, some of which you can't. I would just encourage, I think, if we're going to do something on councillor briefings, to do two things: to really unpack point 1, which is how we judge what is a significant harm, what's expedient, and what's in the public interest. Both strike me as 3 distinct tests, so to speak, which I think if we had a few case studies to talk about as councillors would be useful. The second of which is, all of us are aware that the major problem about planning enforcement is it just takes so long. All of us have probably got cases which have gone on. I mean, I had one for about 2.5 years, which was a case of, we would serve an enforcement notice, someone would appeal the enforcement notice, then they would appeal then they could appeal the decision that was made to go to a planning inspector and come back. So, whilst I think it's useful to have something which says we will inform someone complaining about it, you know, when it's concluded, the truth is, we know that it's often concluded for a very long period of time. And actually, what residents really want to know is, how is it being staged? You know, like, at what point have we served a notice and now it's the applicant has an opportunity to appeal it, and so they've gone into a 28-day period by which they submitted something. A lot of those are things that we don't control. We then sit in somebody else's process, if you know what I mean. But that's the thing which I think as councillors we often kind of know, because we can't be over all the detail. But if someone contacts us again, we want to know that it's moved on, if you know what I mean. But we've hit the next step, that has been, you know, kind of like set on, and then we can kind of chase it. Because the challenge, I think, for people who apply these is they want lots of information from us. And when we're going for a legal case against somebody else, we're limited in what information we can actually give out, because in theory, innocent until proven guilty. And yet actually people are coming to us as the councillor and going, well, they are guilty. Look, I can see. So I think the question in that councillor briefing could be, how could we better keep you informed about how these are progressing, and at what kind of trigger points do you come back to us so that we know that something is shifting on? A little bit like when we get planning appeals that go to inspectorate in our ward. You know, you see that something's being lodged, you see that something's been concluded, then it's not perfect, but at least you're aware that it's shifting. So I think as part of the council briefing, that will be a useful exercise to see, because I'm sure we've all got 2 or 3 examples.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, it does seem an interminable period of time sometimes, doesn't it, when it goes on for that? But Simon, can you?
Yeah,
comments, please.
a couple
Take
of
it away.
points there. I mean, the first one, again, it's probably more one for Pip actually, is we could certainly add a reference in the plan to ward councillors' involvement in terms of the public. So if, for example, the public don't want to make a report but want to contact their ward councillor, who in turn will make a report, we could add that if that was what Cabinet wanted. So just I'll leave that one with you, but that's up to you whether you want to put that forward. In terms of the time, yeah, it takes forever with planning enforcement. It's not a simple process, and often, you know, it's not simple, but because people challenge what we do. So if we serve notices, they'll challenge it. They'll go through appeal. Those appeals can take a long time. Then we've got to make decisions as to whether we take action afterwards, which costs money and so on. We've got to look at the public interest. So it is quite complicated. In terms of councillor involvement, what we do try and do is, obviously we do get quite a lot of cases in, most of which you probably won't be that interested in. Some of them you will be interested in, you'll know about them naturally. We will try and give you the heads up if there are sort of quite significant cases within your wards, and we will give you regular updates. But we will be clear that where information can and cannot be shared. A lot of information can't be shared because it's an ongoing investigation with potential legal action at the end of it all. But we can certainly update you, and we can sort of tell you what you can tell people and what you might want to know yourself. And of course, you can contact us anytime for any updates as you go along.
Any other points at all? So can we leave that with you, Pip? Just have a think about that wording, or I mean, I think I'm quite relaxed about it actually. I think if that would be useful, I think that you could do that as a
Yes,
could take a case study, really.
just about that. So it says quite clearly that we don't normally we don't normally investigate anonymous complaints, but we keep the identity confidential. So the assurance of confidentiality for the person who is raising the potential breach is already assured. So I mean, if people in this meeting feel it would be helpful to add, you know, about ward councillors, but I just want to I'm not against it in principle, but I don't know if it needs to be in here, and if it does need to be included, is there a governance process that it would have to go through to, you know, to be added on a separate occasion, or can it just be amended outside of this meeting, or would it have to come back to another meeting? I suppose I just want to understand how an additional reporting mechanism could be included.
Let's hear what Chris and Charlotte have got to say on that, and then we'll come around again and see whether we agree or not.
It sounds sensible, but my gut feeling is that the purpose of somebody actually making an application themselves, if we're going to protect their anonymity, and we should tell them that, is that then when it's resolved, it's reported back to them, rather than reported back to a ward councillor who might have left during that period of time in order to be able to do. So it needs to be the person who's affected, who effectively then gets the information, if you know what I mean. Whilst it might be nice to, you know, inform ward councillors of it. The truth is that some of these things last so long that if they then ever get remedied, the neighbour wouldn't necessarily know, because we actually wouldn't have the details of a neighbour on file to tell them what had happened. We just have the councillors' details, if you know what I mean, and that actually wouldn't resolve anything, or I think give them a sense of resolution.
And I feel, having done a few of these, just people find this quite intimidating sometimes, reporting a planning breach, because it's often a neighbour. Maybe it's you feel you something along the lines of you can also seek advice from your ward or support from your ward councillor, because many people are not physically able to go and measure the thing or take a photo of the thing digitally, or there are a suite of reasons why people might feel they can't competently fill in this well, not just being afraid of their neighbours, but yeah.
I mean, the point about referring or getting help from your ward councillor is not a bad compromise there, is it? I also remember the other bit about it could be like us complaining about Cambridge City Council property, complaining about another property, especially like social housing and stuff like that. You know, that's happened as well, hasn't it? So there's a few bits there that would be covered by that, I suppose. And it's just to pop in there that, you know, seek advice to your ward councillor if you want to, you know, entirely up to you, maybe.
I think support might be a slightly better term, because advice, I just worry about the quasi-legal implications of advice, but support we could all offer and make sure people are directed to the right people. And if we can choose as ward councillors to submit it if we wish to, we would then be in the possession of that knowledge if we wish to.
I feel quite comfortable about the support bit. I think it's not bad, cool. I can see that people would do that. I know that people come to me in the past for that, you know, and wanted help on that. So yeah, are we comfortable with that? Yeah, that's fine. So we need to vote on this, don't we? Yeah, we need to vote. So if you vote, when we vote for this, or not as the case may be, this will be to adopt this policy with that very minor piece of wording change, which we'll leave with Simon to do that, and can be confirmed by you, Pip, if you wish to on that. So if we're happy with that, we can adopt it.
And that's been carried unanimously.
Right, thanks. So, well, the Pip show is now finally over. All three acts have been done there. Thank you, Simon, for supporting that last one there. So we're now to item 11, part B of the agenda. There's no considerations of public participation. So date and time next meeting is the 2nd of July. Not too far away now. I don't think there's any other urgent business. I'll certainly not be notified of that. We don't need to exclude the press or public because we dealt with potentially confidential items without referring to them. So in that case, I can declare this meeting closed at 20:25.